I just want to thank you all for waiting while we got the equipment starting to function and the different components talking to each other. Appreciate your bearing with me and with the rest of us to have a look at some of the new stuff that we've been finding over here in Eastern Washington, uh, Northeast, and along the Idaho border over the last 8 years. So go ahead and, Maureen, take the announcements away, and then I'll get started. Thanks for waiting, folks. I am putting together in this show uh, data from about 6, 8 different folks that have all been running around the last 8 years or so, and sending in more and more field data and photographs that we could compile and really get a richer picture of Lepidoptera in Eastern Washington. So let me give you a little bit of a who's who here. Um, this is one of our first field trips to a place that some of you folks have been to with me. This is at Twin Lakes. Here's Patty Ensor did some studies with David McCorkle, who we know from our recent conference in the Okanagan. This is John Stewart. Wade Schwartz has been active with the Lepidoptera Society and is very much into butterflies and helps me with some of the tech stuff I need done. And this is one of the premier monarch taggers from Texas. And she has been a great help. B. Harrison, that's her name. So anyway, this is me and my wife, Brenda. And we are photographed here on top of Mount Kit Carson, which is a neighboring peak in the Mount Spokane State Park area. This is what we got for you tonight. More than 20 butterfly species with more extended range or more dense patterns of distribution than indicated previously. I would amend that, let's see, the sampling period now includes a little bit from 2016. We didn't get too much new this year, but there's some. And then here's credit to some of the folks that have helped in assembling this material. It's pretty exciting stuff. Obviously much influenced by Bob Pyle's book. This field guide is wonderful. I'm kind of sorry to see it going out of print, really. I do look forward to the new update that's coming soon, but what a fine piece of writing, and just Heidi Elsch's photos. Wow. Anyway, many of us, in talking to one another about what the maps shaped up like for Spokane, Pend Oreille, Lincoln County, would comment to one another, wow, we just don't get it. We keep seeing things that aren't supposed to be here, or what's going on with this stuff? And we decided we'd better try to email John and Bob and some of you other folks and try to figure out what's really what, and see if we couldn't try to get this updated or figured out what we've actually got here. And that is what I've done, actually, is taken a paint program in Microsoft Office stuff and added in new areas and highlights on some of the maps from this book. So it's crude, but I think it'll give you a pretty good idea of where some of the hot spots are. And then what I've done is spent some time explaining some of our favorite localities as well, so that if you choose to come over here for a visit sometime, you'll get a pretty good idea of where to go and what you might find. This was one of the sources that I drew from as well, of course, Hinchliff's. Anyway, lots of data sampling all over the state of Washington, with thin spots over here. I don't know if you can see my cursor jumping around. Southern Stevens, Spokane County, Lincoln County, Whitman, this kind of east central and northeast area got somewhat short shrift. And as well, I should mention that John Shepard spent a lot of the last few years surveying around in here and has done a lot to update those records. And I don't have his data, but that will be worth paying attention to as well, I think, when Bob Pyle's new book comes out. So here's an example of how that distribution map looks for just one species. We only had one sampled locality as of 1995 in which we could find the green comma, Polygonia faunus. And those were fairly old records. They go back to the 60s, 70s. I believe Tom Rogers was the collector that found that butterfly there. And what I came to find out in more recent sampling is the butterfly is actually pretty prevalent in different areas scattered around the county. Not really a continuous distribution because good habitats are all kind of split apart from each other, but really more widespread than you might have expected. So this is what the map looks like then from Pyle's butterflies of Cascadia, with just this merest little corner where that black spot touches. And I theorized when I first saw this that perhaps that was due to a lack of sampling, but from what I've heard more recently, it could be that the species has simply moved out of its high elevation stronghold and into some other lower elevation areas. So here's where we have seen them now. This is a different mapping system here from Butterflies and Moths of America, Baumann, that some of you use to report sightings. And you can see over here is a spot at Riverside State Park. And here where we would have had lots of butterfly sampling done by Tom Rogers in the 60s, the butterfly is now commonly present. I've seen it in there, this area in central Spokane County several times. So curiously, it does seem to have moved out of this sort of mountain redoubt into some of the valley country, and it seems to be staying there. So this is kind of the before-after method that we're using to help pinpoint where different sightings have been found. And you can see here a photo that pretty well shows the green as a green comma for which it's named.
It's actually a really beautiful green photo.
Yeah. So again, I've been interested in the kind of contrast between different new sighting localities. Some seem to be pretty clear range extensions, and others I would have to characterize as simply being more densely populated than we may have found previously within its known range. So here's a really clear range extender that many of you are familiar with from field trips over to this side of the state. It's become a pretty widespread species, Edith's copper. It really, I have not found them in Whitman County yet, but most of the other eastern counties are now showing this butterfly. This one was a photo of a female, not Bob Pyle's sighting, but he observed it in 2000, and that did get into butterflies of Cascadia. This was a subsequent observation that I was able to make on Mount Spokane about 2009. Depending on the season, they can be quite abundant, and they seem to be scattered up in this corner of the state up here. Older records indicate that they were in western Montana, and for whatever reasons, nobody seems to know quite why, they have just been trucking on up northeast through Washington, and from what I hear from John Shepard, have now been sighted near Nelson, BC. So I'm not sure where they're going to stop. The map key explains that the old range is gray-blue. This is what you'd see in butterflies of Cascadia here, covering the Blue Mountains in northeast Oregon. And then here with the stars indicating specific localities where the butterfly has been seen, and then kind of my rough guess as to its range in here, Spokane, Pend Oreille, and Stevens County. We also have a little population here near Liberty Creek at Liberty Lake County Park. Okay. Mormon metalmark has been one delight that I was not sure when I started in all this if I was actually ever going to find one of these, because they were so elusive to me at first. But you have to be out very late in the summer, August, sometimes September, earlier these last couple of years. And you want to be in places that look like they're almost barren of any sort of life, let alone insects. There's a little river bench above the Spokane River, just to the west of the Bowl and Pitcher at Riverside State Park, where I found my first colony of these guys. And they have appeared there pretty regularly. And then some of my fellow butterfly enthusiasts began to see them in various areas around the neighboring counties. So here's as of 1995. Bob Piles suggests that in butterflies of Cascadia that they're associated with the Spokane River and some of the other rivers here. Not necessarily have we seen them restricted to such larger water features. They actually are along creeks and even vernal pools that are large enough. Hog Lake here has a good stable colony. Here's the one in Riverside State Park. And then we've got a few locations in Lincoln County up here at Twin Lakes, where I've led a few field trips, and then down here by Upper Crab Creek. So, they're not big travelers. They will be near, we usually see them nectaring on snow buckwheat and other late blooming flowers, rabbit brush. A fun little butterfly to find, and not really so rare as we might have expected. This is, don't be fooled by this photo, it was taken in Mexico, but the butterfly was actually seen here. Riverfront Park is the site of Expo 74, and this butterfly actually was coursing through there while I was walking through the park on lunch break. And I was pretty stunned at first, and managed to put together a verbal report for some of the folks like John and Bob and the two Daves, and they put their heads together and decided, yeah, that must be what it is. I'm pretty familiar with this butterfly from childhood, where I grew up in southern Minnesota, where these were a fairly regular mid to late summer migrant. So they probably have been intermittent visitors to Washington for a while, but somebody had to be there to see it. Our friend Charles Rogers saw one shortly after I saw mine, and his is also indicated here down at, I'm not sure what county that was, Franklin or Benton. Anyway, good stuff. Here's my lousy photograph of Washington State's first, what species is this?
Buckeye.
Buckeye, you got it. Yeah, I can hear you. Good job. So anyway, I thought something looked weird about that ventral view, and the way it was flying, it was like something I'd never quite seen in the area before. And sure enough, I was able to crop this down enough and still have enough of an image to show what it was, even though it's not much of a photo. I tried to follow him around, but he disappeared into some bulrushes, and that was that. This is a photo of an adult that I got in Virginia some years earlier. So we've been really pleased to see this butterfly at least once, one summer. I have not heard of any later records after this particular season, which makes me kind of curious about this whole phenomenon of butterfly eruptions. And I expect we're probably going to be hearing more about those over the next few years, what with all the other species that seem to be prone to this kind of population spread and variation. But that was a lot of fun finding this guy. So long journey, 250 miles. I can't remember the name of the woman that took a picture of another buckeye. She had a great photo from down here in Benton County on the Snake River, or maybe it was the Palouse River, but
Columbia River, it was an island in the Columbia River.
Okay, in the Columbia River. All right then. And it looks, if I'm not mistaken, that this butterfly's headquarters is where it might overwinter nearest to us is down here in Southwest Oregon and Northern California. So these guys, again, are making quite a trip to get up here. Darn near made it to Canada. These guys are really on the move. This is European skipperlings. We do not yet have them in Spokane County, and I suspect the culprit there is that they do a lot of weed spraying on the shoulders of our highways. But all the neighboring counties to the north and east of us have a lot of these guys. Wet meadows, could be high or low elevation, could be weedy, or even rather pristine sorts of environments. It seems to be pretty widely adaptable. I have seen them up here in bunchgrass meadows, in Stevens County, higher places in the Little Pend Oreille Wildlife Refuge. Coming down into the Kalispell land, they've started to get in, and here in Bonner County at Big Meadow, there is a very thriving population. Right across the border from us, near Coeur d'Alene, is another kind of horse pasture that has been set aside as a land easement, conservation easement, that had my first look at these guys right over the border from us. So it's been kind of fun to watch what they're up to. One interesting sidelight on this is I could have sworn I saw Brenda and I saw one of these little guys hopping around in the grass at a Interstate 90 rest stop just on the way back across the state in here. It would be at Elk Heights or that vicinity. So if you're up there in July, August sometime, I would take a close look on the weeds and the butterflies up there. You might see your first, I don't know if that's Kittitas or King County European skipperling. But anyway, this is another range extender. His process has been a little bit slower, whereas the European skipperlings are halfway down the Rocky Mountain front into Colorado by now. These guys are kind of coming up slowly north. They have been further north in Whitman County more recently, further north in Lincoln County, and this may have been an oversight. I'm not really sure how this has worked out, but I have a 2005 edition of John Acorn's Butterflies of British Columbia book that has them even in southern BC way up here. So it's very strange that we don't have any records yet from Okanagan or some of that other neighborhood there, maybe in Chelan area.
The BC record was a single record, an old record, and has never been duplicated.
So that's not an accurate report?
I don't say it wasn't accurate, I just hadn't been duplicated. So it's not like an established colony.
No. Yeah, well, I don't know, you know, whether these guys here up at, say, Twin Lakes are established or not. That would be an interesting question. we'll just be keeping an eye on the place and let you know. Anyway.
Yakima County, they're in Yakima City. We haven't got them in Kittitas County yet, but.
Okay, so
yeah.
they're not in here yet?
Not in the Kittitas, not so far as I know.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm not sure why they're making their way more up this way and not as much in here. It would seem like the better terrain for their kind of butterfly would be over here, but what do I know? Anyway, it's very interesting to follow this route that they've taken and see how they skip down the Columbia River and then are kind of bearing straight north now that they're in far eastern Washington. We were very pleased to see these guys, a couple of them, for the first time in Spokane County at the WABA conference that had its home base in Newport and finished up over here. These are some butterflies photographed in Lincoln County, where they're also usually found near Twin Lakes and along Upper Crab Creek. But I remember first hearing from Gene Damerel that these could be found in that area, and I thought that was quite wonderful news because, again, reading Butterflies of Cascadia, they were kind of located more down in south central and central Washington in very low elevation kind of scablandy places. And here we've seen them a little bit higher up in the sage steppe. So most of these localities are, something around 1,800 to 2,200 feet elevation. So a little higher, a little cooler. They'll tend to be flying a little bit later than some of the examples that you would see, say, down at Lower Crab Creek near Beverly. So that would be my guess as to the kind of range that you're seeing with the ruddies at this point. Thinly scattered in this area, but definitely a presence. A lot of fun. One of the prettiest butterflies, I think, that we've been able to locate. Anesia checker spots are really starting to show up in more localities than we had records for in the past. John, you'll have to correct me or anybody on the subspecies names. I don't know if those have been changed over the last couple of years, but this looks like the Howlandi, and this is from Horseshoe Lake in southwest Pend Oreille County. They show up pretty reliably in late spring and early summer in different low meadows and sometimes in higher country in Pend Oreille, Stevens. Have not yet found one in Spokane County yet. This is my best guess as to what the range is looking like now, with some additions here, not only for, so here's Hopfengeri over here, HP, VZA, if I'm, John, tell me if this is right, more in the scabland, sagebrush stuff here.
Yakima County, Kittitas County, Clickitat County records, they're all VZA too.
Okay. And then up here is the HW for Howlandi, northeastern Washington. They have been found at, here's Horseshoe Lake, would be right here. Locations at Deer Lake here in Stevens County, and I've found them up here as well in some of the higher country, and in Bonner County, Idaho, over just this side of the border. So, beautiful little butterflies. This is the VZA, one of the whitest checker spots I think I've ever seen. That's the only one I've ever seen of that. I have not been back to this locality. It's at Northrop Canyon State Park. Well worth a spring hike, the wildflowers there, and at, what is the name of it? Steamboat Rock. Those two state parks are very well worth a spring butterfly trip. May, early June. You want to get out there early, and hopefully a wetter spring actually, because that will bring out even more flowers. So this is one of those scabland localities that I've been talking about. I did an auction trip out here, not this past June, but a year ago June. And we saw some of the cool butterflies that live out here, although by no means all of them. These are some of the fellows that have shown up here. Green hairstreak, sachem, northern white skipper. It seems to be kind of a butterfly thoroughfare. It attracts monarchs. In fact, a monarch larvae was found on a rather thin population of milkweed plants that grows between the two lakes at Twin Lakes. Was just found this summer by one of our DFW biologists. So we were pretty excited about that. This gives you a better sense of the topography from the area viewpoint and kind of where it's located in the county. Upper Crab Creek is down here at the lower side of the screen. And this, by the way, is a nice location for a little kind of moxie bog type population of silver bordered fritillaries. We'll get to look at those guys in a few minutes. But if you wanted to visit the place, this is where you'd probably come in through Odessa and then follow Highline Road up into that area there, like so. So Beloria saline, appearing in scattered relic colonies. These are some examples. It looks as if the colony that John Shepard had found on in the 60s near Turnbull Wildlife Refuge may have gone the way of habitat succession. I spent a lot of time, probably 2-3 summers worth of regular visits in backcountry Turnbull refuge locations and was not able to locate any of these. But there were some other good things. They may have they have been seen. I have anecdotal reports of here along the north border of Spokane County. This here is Big Meadow in Bonner County, Idaho. They are also doing well in various Pend Oreille County locations, and I found them at Little Pend Oreille Wildlife Refuge as well. So a fun little butterfly. Hoary elphins, 3 of our new Spokane County records in the last 10 years or so have been hair streaks, and this is one of them. Don't know, I think that Tom Rogers, who did most of our butterfly sampling in the 60s and 70s, was just not spending a lot of time around the kinnikinick patches where these guys are happy. But when you find a good patch, these guys are quite abundant. And I have found them along the Little Spokane River and Riverside State Park in several spots, as well as down by Leta Creek. So they've also got quite a few strongholds up here in Pend Oreille County, and they're common at the Little Pend Oreille Wildlife Refuge in Stevens County as well. Gene Damerel was able to photograph a sort of outlier colony in one of the canyons feeding down into, I think that's still the Spokane River Gorge up here along the north border of Lincoln County. So that too has been included. Really a pretty remarkable little butterfly. And it's fun to see how these colonies kind of scatter themselves around if they find a good patch of habitat and just stay there. This was a new resident for Spokane County. Gene Damerel found this one on Mount Spokane in 2012. We have found them in some of the foothills around the mountain. I also have anecdotal reports that it's on Mica Peak, which is a sort of if you drive east through the city and head towards Coeur d'Alene on Interstate 90, you've got the taller peak of Mount Spokane looming up to the north of you on the left, and then on the cedar hair streaks. We got them. We'll try to show you a map about that in a second.
People were wondering what that flower is.
Oh, he's pollinating a wild strawberry. Yeah.
How come you didn't get this? I didn't see any leaves.
It's not wanting me to change to a new photo. There he is. So I don't know why they just escaped prior notice, not enough sampling out here. So this blob down here, you'll recall from 2013 WABA conference in Moscow. We saw a couple of these colonies. So I'm hoping I'm back. Anyway, the green hair streaks, yes. It's fairly easy in early spring to find a green hair streak here and there, but to be able to get enough field data that you can be sure of which you've got without going through the headache of the genitalic dissections, that has been a project for us. I think we've got some good data here now to help bear this out, and I'm going to be able to share that with you. This little guy was photographed at Twin Lakes, where he was first seen in Lincoln County by Gene Damerel a few years back. So over the past 7 years, some data has been compiled on the different greenies that we get, Westerns and Sheridans. And we now know that, for instance, there's last year at Hog Lake. All right. So, yes, I was talking about locating the greenies, and so we were able to find Gene Damerel went back to the same location at Hog Lake about 4 weeks later and found the Affinis perched up on bushes rather than down on the ground, and in otherwise virtually the same locations. So that was a lot of fun to finally get confirmation on that behavior pattern, because I had strongly suspected it at Turnbull and just not been able to land at the right times to establish that that's what I was seeing. So these are some of the places where we've seen these guys. There's a fellow named Glenn Gorlick out of California that's
Offers the green hair streaks.
Okay. We lost track of what species we were on.
This is the Western green hair streak, Calophoris affinis. And there may be colonies on Mount Spokane as well. Yeah, Arctic skippers. These guys have turned out to be fairly common in Spokane County. There are numerous early, well, I should say probably mid to late spring localities, lower elevations where we find them now. They appear to have come out of this range and butterflies of Cascadia and just moved right southeast, so that we now find them here in Riverside State Park, over here in the Dishman Hills Natural Area, and in various localities in between. Generally riparian, can be weedy, more often just more natural sorts of places. Long dashes, I think we've got a new locality for this guy out at Turnbull Wildlife Refuge, virtual look-alike to the woodland skipper, except that it flies much, much earlier. So this guy you'd probably see out there in June, whereas the Oclotes sylvanoides will be out there in late August. And there's your spot in Turnbull. I have found them more recently within the expected range up in here quite a bit over the last few years as well. Little Ponderay has them, Kalispell tribe lands have them. Cool butterfly. This was the new record per Bob Pyle in his survey of Mount Spokane areas about 15 years ago. Tawny Edge Skipper. And there's the rough location. I have not yet found them in Pend Oreille County. I don't know why. It seems like they should be there. A lot of their companion species do appear there. And continuing on with Pleiades, these little guys are starting to show up a little bit north of the range that we have seen in butterflies at Cascadia. I'm kind of rushing through here so I can get everything in and not keep you too late. There are pretty good populations up here along that the Twin Lakes drainage. Coffee Pot Springs, Coffee Pot Lake. Good place to look. This is Amber Lake here, and then there are some other places. Old reports from Iller Creek, Dishman Hills, I have not been able to replicate. I expect that those kind of lowland places have been really overrun by weeds and weed killers, so not so well preserved. We don't have too much trouble finding these if we know where to look. Moss's elfins are pretty regular in Pend Oreille County. They like medium elevation to low elevation, even woodsy places. They fly earlier in some of the same places where we find the hoary elfins. This guy is at Horseshoe Lake. Yeah, there we are. Moss's elfin. Yeah, what's cool about the original Tom Rogers location up here is that is just packed full of those butterflies. I was there during their flight a couple of times this past spring, 2016, and when they were out, you would just see them in numbers. It was very cool. I've not seen them that thickly populated anywhere before. So that is a conservation success for this little nature conservancy that we have here. One of the first conservation efforts in the county, really. Very cool. So now I'm trying to move on to the next screen. And here we go. This is where I took that first Moss's elfin photograph, Horseshoe Lake. And this shows you where it is. You're looking at Highway 2 going up towards Newport here. This is a connection here that will take you up here to Division Road and thus into Horseshoe Lake, which is now a new conservation area. Mormon fritillaries, we're seeing them a little bit more widespread. Adding in some, they come just into the tip of northern Pend Oreille County out here. And now we're seeing them down a little bit more. This here is at Lookout Pass, border of Idaho and Montana. And down here is a lower elevation group at Big Meadows. And I'm going to show you the map of that in a few minutes if I am allowed to. Dun skippers have shown up at Little Pend Oreille Wildlife Refuge, some places in Stevens, Pend Oreille, and Bonner County. Also the very, very northern tip of Spokane County, with a difficult ID that John Pelham helped me with out of Mount Spokane State Park. So this is a Kiowa subspecies that is different from the one that I guess you see more often down here in southwestern and south central Washington. My guess is it's been there, but just, and I think we talked about this, John, just pretty hard for people to find nondescript butterfly in places that people don't typically like to sample that much. Vesuvius dusky wing. For this one, I did not know what I was even looking at here. I thought it was just an odd looking Perseus, but John Pelham said, no, look at this rusty patch here. That's a nice photo of the Vesuvius. And that's kind of a a funny place to see it, not only the first Spokane County sighting of this species, but in a place where the Ceanothus volutinus is not present. We do have lots of the red stem Ceanothus there. And so I'm thinking that it's making use of a different host from the same genus. There's the location that I found, and we have another photo ID'd by from Gene Damerel by John as a Horseshoe Lake sighting of the Vesuvius. I'm missing your sidebar conversations, yes, but yes, so celebrating Gene Damerel, very much worth. Okay, come on. So, meadow fritillary. I have not been able to find this in Spokane County at the localities it was supposed to have been seen in the past. We have been on the lookout at Turnbull for several seasons and never found one, despite there being some respectable habitat. But they have shown up in Pend d'Oreille County. Ty Stewart found one a few years back, and then I've found a pretty good colony of them just over the border here. This is Big Meadow on Kalispel tribal land in the Idaho Panhandle, Bonner County. And this is the map of that place.
You got to look for bad habitat. Cow pies, that's the first clue. You got to look for cow.
There used to be, but they kicked the cattle out, John.
That was the problem.
Yeah. So this is, I'm sure that it was used as pasture in the past. In fact, there's a stream that runs through here that was all straightened out and kind of disfigured, and they're trying to reroute that and plant it in with more natural plants. And I've put in for good colonies of different violet species so that we can keep our fritillaries going. The tribe is willing to do that. And as well, they're also looking at getting in some other native plant species that would benefit Gillette checker spots, which may be in the neighborhood. So they're doing some very cool stuff there. The Kalispel tribal land is this spot right in here. I've learned that we're actually welcome to walk around in there, even though I put no public entry is allowed. I was corrected on that by one of the tribal members when I was giving this talk for them. But certainly it's easier to get back into some of these places by taking the roads that come back along the side of the property. The butterfly will appear along this road and in roadsides and out into the meadow a little ways all throughout that area. So here's our northern white skipper. Thank you, Gene, for this wonderful photo. I have still yet to see this butterfly in my lifetime, but with that kind of evidence, I've got to trust that it's there. Not a common butterfly at all. We have one record from out by Cheney, thanks to Todd Stewart. And this is our last one in the series. We were benefactors up here as well from the American Lady eruption that got to, well, most Waba folks know that they were up at the Wallowa Mountains this summer, and we saw one at the banquet that David James had caught. But this nice fresh butterfly must have just hatched before it landed in a really nice butterfly garden near Davenport, Washington, in the center of Lincoln County. So we were very proud of that sighting and delighted that Gene happened to be there. The person that owns this garden has had it for years, and it just seems to attract the most interesting wayfaring species. He's had the northern white skipper as well as monarchs and just about any other interesting species that you would find migrating through that kind of area. And talk about location, location, location. That is good real estate. So that is roughly where that was. And here is roughly where we were in the Blue Mountains. These are some honorable mentions: Compton Tortoiseshell, Liberty Creek along the Spokane County, Idaho border, July 2013. I saw 4 of those guys all at once. Coral hair streaks are in Twin Lakes in Lincoln County. Monarchs have been popping in and out. We've got more folks looking for those. Somebody just reported a monarch sighting from near downtown last month, near a new housing addition that's called Kendall Yards, right by the river. Northern cloudy wings, I've seen a couple of times at Riverside State Park, and we still got mountain Parnassians at Spokane State Park at a natural area. So they've been a delight. This is just basically advertising for stuff that I was going to go on to do the following season. So I'm going to go ahead and exit sharing the screen now and just go back to me. And so there you have it. I got through all of that stuff in spite of our computer connections and so forth. And I want to thank you all for being so patient with all of this. Who knew? We're all lab rats in this. Thank you. Really, really a pleasure to share this material, and great to hear your enthusiasm. If you want to try to shout out some questions or have Maureen type them to me, I'll hang around for a few minutes.
Anybody have any questions?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, I was interested in what you were saying about the sachem. Okay?
Yes.
Antelopides. That I thought you got a record from Stevens or Pend Oreille County. Not. I'm just trying to remember. Did you not?
I don't have sachem in Pend Oreille or Stevens yet, but there's no reason why they couldn't have been. I think your sound is cut out.
Are they in Spokane County?
No, very close. The
Okay,
Whitman
so
County location was just a few miles shy of it.
All right, that's it. That's all I had.
Okay, David Jennings has a question. Do you want to just ask it, David?
I thought I saw that up on the screen as a chat and then it disappeared.
Okay, so he's asking whether the Anisha checker spotted are new colonies or newly discovered.
I expect newly discovered. I wouldn't be sure about that. Maybe John could speak to that issue better, or David, who's ever, one of our senior members over there.
What was the question again?
Were the Anisha checker spots new colonies or newly discovered?
Oh, up in Pend Oreille County? Yeah, that's just filling in the spots. We had them before. The one that he got from Northwestern Canyon, that was, didn't expect that at all. And David Rockers and I went back 2 years later and replicated it. So I was a happy little puppy dog.
That's cool. I'm glad you got those, John. Anybody else? Oh, Brenda McCracken here, your former board member and still enthusiastic, ever enthusiastic WABA member, says hello. Here she is. There she is. Say hi, Brenda.
Hi, Brenda.
She's been busy scoring papers tonight.
Uh,
Yeah, fun, huh? Anybody else?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for sticking with us. And I would like to also offer that if any of you are interested in getting a Dropbox version of this slideshow, send me your email. Maureen would have that handy.
It's on the
And
it's posted on the website, I think, right?
yeah, good. And I'll be able to ship that out to you within a
Link it
couple of
out.
days, a Dropbox link, so that you can see this. It won't have some of the new additions that I put in just before I did this tonight, but everything else should still be there.
Thank you, John.
Okay. Thanks, John.
All right. Thank you.
Bye. I'm going to end this then.
Okay. Yeah.